Hey, how's it going? Please look at my signs. Now, I went out there and turned down the radio, and I thought the song was over. And I'm hoping you cannot hear that it's Kate Bush. It's not called Climbing Up the Wall, but she says it in the song. It got new life when it was in Stranger Things a couple of years ago. Sort of like one of the characters' theme song for getting over the humps, whatever, barricades. But what I'm hoping is that, as in most of the videos I watch when someone's like, oh, the lawnmowers or some sort of noise from out, you know, like around them, they think can be heard in their videos, and I don't think I've ever been able to hear what they're so afraid of leaking in. I don't care if noise gets in, but if it's like somebody else's music and then I get dinged for a royalty fee, trying to avoid that. I don't have money for fees. Especially, oh my gosh, today. What a day. So, I pulled some cards. Did I show you the signs already? I think I already did the signs. So I pulled a card from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck. Nope, that song is still just going and going. And I pulled the number 62 card. If you add 6 and 2, it's 8. Been getting a lot of 8s lately. I'm going to come back to that. So I got the Will-O-the-Wisp card, Treasures Hidden in the Shadows. And as you can see, there's a lot of things going on in this illustration. Mainly what I'm concerned with right now is that there are so many layers to the illustration itself. I mean, there's wings, there's a face, I always think like a fountain is happening here with this sort of round area and this upspurting of white water, it looks like. And then whatever these are, I'm just not sure. My vision is blurry and getting blurrier, because I need to have an appointment and get another stronger eyeglass prescription. Not get my eyes fixed or anything, not improve my vision, just give me stronger glasses to look through. So that's how that goes. But anyway, it's not just there's a picture of wings and there's a picture of a face and there's a picture of whatever these are. It's that this face is overlaid upon the wings, which is overlaid upon other wings, which is overlaid upon the dark background. And on top of all of that is this water shooting up and this fountain that all of that appears to be coming forth from out of the water. And this okay, I'm going to look at it, but it actually looks like little wafts of smoke coming from that central fountain feather-esque business. But I often say that looking at the same picture through the camera as opposed to my eyes looks different. Like the little not dust puffs, but smoke puffs actually look like tricolored for some reason, like the 3 primary colors. In the early years of television upgrades, like big screens, the earlier ones started out with a projection type situation. I mean, they all, I guess, do that, but the screen would be behind all of what was happening with these things. And then there was a projection unit that was like down sort of on the base of the whole deal, and it would project up onto the screen. But it did like primary colors only, so before the movie started, if it was just projecting onto a blank screen, you saw a red, blue, and green circle, right? And it would overlap. So red, blue, and yellow, rather. And then the colors would overlap, and then you get like purple and green. But just in those sort of Vesica of Pisces overlaps in the circle. And then it would all go away when you turned on the laser disc, which was this big, giant plastic thing. I mean, not unlike a compact disc, because it wasn't compacted yet. And I think it's the same technology, but they just made it a lot smaller. But it was the size of a record album, which I guess a lot of people no longer know what that is because they're young. I was going to say because they're new. Are you new? Do you not know? So, yeah, a vinyl record, which for a long, they're coming back into popularity again because let's face it, they've just always sounded better than a compact disc. Not going to go into that whole discussion, but the albums were made of vinyl, and they were just usually black, but in the case of like a special release, like I had a Beatles double album, and it was like the white album or something, but the discs were colored, and you were supposed to just keep them all in the package and not play them. And the black ones didn't do this, the black record albums, but the colored ones did for some reason. And so every time I play that Beatles record, just because I wanted to, I wasn't a collector. I was like 11. I didn't know what the hell. But I'd play it, and the stylus would shave little peels of whatever the color was on the record that it was playing. So it was like, they really were not, those colored ones, you were not meant to play them. But anyway, now artists and I guess labels are bringing back the use of albums, vinyl albums, for their records. And that's a good thing for the listener. But where you will mostly find them these days, for people that are unfamiliar with what a record or a record album is, which record is the root word for recording. It's not like a separate whole thing of itself. It's just us chopping the word into something shorter and more expedient, as we love to do. So, but yeah, where you're most likely to see an album, particularly one of the black ones, between now and like when CDs started to take over, was in hip-hop, because their DJ would be scratching the records to get that wicka 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 sound. So if you know what that is, that's a record. That's a record album. Lesson over. I don't know, I feel like anybody that'd be watching this is old enough to know, is gonna be old enough to know what a record is, but you know, you don't know, actually. I don't know who, like, my later image being viewed is gonna be looking at and talking to, just to be safe. So why was I talking about that? I don't know what got me started about talking about that. I know I was talking about the layers of this picture. Oh, so the little, yeah, right? The little smoke puffs. It reminded me of the projection TV. That's how I got Laserdisc to record album. Got it. Come back. Come back to where you were. It makes sense again. Okay, so, yeah. Looking at this picture, I see colors on these little puffs of smoke, but not just with my naked eye. It's just blue and light, like white, I guess, but sort of in blue light. Anyway, now that I told you all about that, so yeah, the subtitle for Will the Wisp is Treasures Hidden in the Shadows. And I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. But I want to also show you the second card that I pulled, which was from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. This one. And it is starfish. So the starfish, just right off the bat, it is a unique creature. There are, I mean, please show me another thing shaped like this that's alive that does stuff. I mean, it does starfish stuff. It's mostly out of sight that you're not gonna see, like the underside of these things. If you flipped it over, you see just one whole unit, but if you flip it over, the starfish, what you're gonna find is a whole bunch of little fingies underneath, and it's like, it's just a giant sensory, well, it's not giant, it's probably about this big, but it's a sensory organ. And there are ones that have longer tendril-like fingers and maybe even bigger central areas, like hub bodies or whatever, but they are generally about this size. So they are a confusing concoction of textures, and I would even assign personality to it. Just even to itself, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde critters. Like I said, one thing on the one side, and then you flip it over to its underside, and it's got all of this other stuff going on. The little fingies feel, taste. I think they eat through them or something. They're their mobility devices. How they move around. It's how they climb on stuff. They can stick to something vertical like a dang bug. Granted, they're underwater, so I mean, in those conditions, I could stick to a vertical wall like a bug, but not stay there. Like, current could easily move me off, or I could move one of my limbs and propel myself inadvertently away. Starfish do not have that issue. This is where they live. They have well come to terms with how to behave underwater, but they still need, like, adhesion and strength to climb around obstacles, around, over, through, whatever. So I think I got this because it's just an illustration of, you may not be seeing what you think you're seeing when you look at something. And I say that because, you know, I had a realization yesterday, and it was about, like, mediumship, and how everyone has a different thing going on, and their level of, I'm not going to say skill, but ability or adeptness. And by that I mean, by adeptness, I mean, like, you're good at it, and you may have trained at that skill, or you may have come upon it naturally, but you're good at it, is what I'm saying. Your level of skill is more advanced in some ways than other people, or just different. But what I realized is that I'm not like a psychic medium. I don't have very good track record with, like, just asking a question and getting an instant answer. Although I'm working on it, it's improving, you know. But I don't know, like, how far that can be developed. But what I have noticed is that, like, I have this technique I developed for doing these cards. And what it is I'll pull them as early in the day as possible, I guess. As I don't always remember to do it. Like, sometimes I'll forget, and then, like, half the day will have gone by, and then I'll do it. Or, like, this evening, I didn't pull them at all because I had such a dirty day. No, busy day since early this morning. Like 9 o'clock, I was out the door, which is highly unusual for me anymore. So I didn't get a chance to pull the cards until about a half an hour before I started doing this. However, I found that that is the way I cast my net. Like, I collect information, and when I get to my cards, it comes out. But what I have found is, even though it might not sound like any kind of verification to someone else, I will do my thing, do my card read, or write whatever essay I'm going to write, like whatever it is that I'm going to do that day. I'll like pump it out, and then when I'm done, I'll come across 3 or 4 people either before or after. Like, time has no meaning. I could even see it before I have done my reading, but what I'm getting at is that I will have come to the same sort of conclusion or understanding of events. Whatever it is, it'll come from a different direction than a psychic medium being asked a question and then like accessing their spiritual team of angels and guides and so on and getting an immediate on-the-spot answer. Mine comes drifting in pieces all day or something, and then I have to sort of, when I go to talk about it, it just kind of assembles. And I knew that I was, making connections and connecting dots and clicking and things before, but I didn't understand, I understood why it was different, but it just took me a minute to sort of collate and process my own information. But once I got that down, then I began to see, oh, wait, this is corresponding with other people that I generally watch because I get information from them or admire them. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself right about now. I don't know what you call what I do, but I'm just going to go with net casting for now, because it seems like, to me, I start out with nothing, pull the cards, throw that net out there, and then collect bits of data throughout the day, and at the end, when it gets to the card reading, that's when I process my catch, I guess you could say. So I'm sharing that with you just because when I first started learning about all the psychic stuff, ever since I was a kid, there's always been something, I've known something in advance or known someone who was going to call, and we all have that to a degree. I think we can all look back in our life, and if it didn't happen to us, it happened to somebody we knew. We heard somebody talking about it, but the phone thing, you're thinking of someone and they call, or someone calls and you were just thinking, well, I said that one, but it could go the other way too. But it's things like that. So we all have a degree of it just built in, and then one of my touchstones is Sterling Psychic Medium, that's here on YouTube. That's his channel, Sterling Psychic Medium. And he answers viewer questions each week. And he reads the questions, and then his guides in his head answer him, and then he relays the answer. And he does other stuff, and he talks about it. So all my life I was getting information and sort of processing it, but not like that. I was just still sort of am kind of wandering around, bumping around in the, I don't want to say darkness, but where you can't really tell where you're going and you don't have immediate answers. That's what I feel like. But then I get the answers. So I mean, it was just kind of realizing, okay, wait, Sterling says we're all born with it, and it just, depending on the person, the degree is going to be different because we choose our life paths, and so what we want to come up and cropping up in our life, it may require us to be a full-on, fully powered psychic medium right at first, or it might be that you're completely disconnected from those things. And where you go from there is the life path. I'm not going to speculate on it because I got my own thing going on, and I'm trying to stay in one conversational lane so I don't get lost here, but it just seemed like one of the things that I should share because, when I first started like thinking about it seriously, as in like I have this capacity or I can do this, I had to come to terms with it don't manifest in life the way it looks on television. And I was talking to myself, but I was thinking of fictional stuff. And it wasn't always the case where you could turn on the television and find shows about real psychic mediums. And there's ones that have been on where people are just like, this person is a fake, it's not real. And I'm going to go ahead and name her name, Teresa Caputo, because she's had a show for years. I don't think she still does, but she had a show for years, and I only watched a couple of episodes, but it was kind of like wherever she was, the psychic thing would come up, and she would answer someone's question, or she would see someone and their relative or whatever would be around them talking to her, which she was psychic, so she could hear and see him, but everybody else was more or less, to varying degrees, unaware. So there was a lot of skepticism about her, and then there was times where people like proved her wrong. But thing is that happens. Like, psychics are not always 100% right, and they can't read 100% of everything. Like, they, as a general rule, are not great at reading themselves or stuff about their own lives. So, I mean, there's all these like lines and things that have to be taken into consideration. But the point is that mostly it's not going to look, whether it's fictional TV or like real people. So to finish about Caputo, the mediums that I have been following for like 5 or 6 years now, and that I keep following because they keep being right, have said that, yeah, she is like genuine, but a number of factors like the they can be wrong thing can affect you. And then this is my own speculation. This is not what they said. They just kind of said, the psychics, they just kind of said, yeah, she's genuine, but we all get it wrong sometimes, and left it at that. But what I feel like is that she got it wrong a couple of times, and someone saw it and caught her out, which makes me think that that person has some abilities. But I don't think we should be using them to snipe each other, like. Anyway, I feel like that she kind of was taking some hits to her ego and her feelings about people doubting her, and maybe caused her to have some doubt. But shows also run their course. Lives have things that happen, like life blueprints, like maybe that was just her run that she was supposed to have. But then I think I saw recently, like, I think her show's been off a couple of years. I think I saw recently that she's back gonna be on something, or was in something. She'll be fine. But so your psychic ability, whatever it is, it's probably not going to look like what happens with other people, because everybody's different. That applies to that stuff too. So, looking kind of general and uniform on the one hand, and then you turn it around and you got a whole bunch of different hands happening back there, and combinations can turn out different every time. You just don't know. So, I guess I'm ready to talk about this. Before I started this today, I watched a lot of news stuff, and I have talked about that a lot. Most people they have some idea of what's going on in the news, and what I talk about usually has to do with American politics and like us and how we're affected by it and stuff. So There's a lot going on with the Trump cases, which my psychics have been predicting for like years now. All of it coming true. About all of the people too, you know. Like, not every detail about every person, but a lot is out there. So it's like between them and like the law revelations, I'm getting a lot of information, like we all are. But it's uproaring people. That's what I got. Okay, it's uproaring people, but it is upsetting because we all have these ideas. Okay, we'll just go with that, about politics and what we want and how we think the things should be. Like, there's always some older people asked at the interviews or wherever, like Trump rallies or Democratic rallies, wherever they're finding these people. But there's a bunch of older ones that are like, I want it to be like the 50s and 60s again. And people like me that are like black are like, no, thank you. I don't want that to come back. And that's just an example that, as you can see, tickles me. It would not be at all funny if it were the case and they could make it happen. But thankfully, there's no going back. Woo! I mean, they could try, but it won't stick. And then, so there's like, people have turmoil about that, and people want Trump, and they don't want Biden, or people want Biden, and they don't want Trump, and this one's got that problem, and that one's got the other problem, but they're kind of the same, because they're both a couple of old farts, except that Trump hates everybody and everything. He says it all the time, and Joe Biden does not do that. He was not my first choice, but I definitely chose him over Trump. No contest. He does care about people. He does understand about having a family. He's had a lot of tragedy in his life that a lot of other Americans have experienced as well. So you can relate to the guy, and Trump makes it as hard as possible to relate to him. The guy's got a boner for his daughter. Weird. He's like rich. He's always talking about it, so he's, making sure, as far as I'm concerned, to place himself as far away from me socially as possible. He's not relatable. And my goodness, like, he really is an ongoing onslaught of just black filth coming out, because this group has something wrong with them. These people are bad. They came against him, but it's always like people are attacking him. He always leaves out about the part where he did something to somebody to make them respond to his attack. That's what it is. All the trouble he's in now, he's trying to say it's other people doing stuff to him, but actually what it is he broke laws. It's not anybody coming after him because he's rich, or not coming after him because he's Trump, or any of the other foolishness that's being said or that he is saying that people are then picking up and repeating. It's because he straight up broke laws, and conditions were good for him for a long time to get away with it. And now time has changed. Change has come. He doesn't get to still do that anymore. It happens. It's not like magical. It's just sort of like the way life in the world works. But you can create a lot of imagery and layers to surround and obscure what's really happening to you. You can look one way, but underneath, a lot of other stuff is going on that they don't want to tell you the details of. Soft underbellies and fleshy little fingers, sensory points of vulnerability can be harmed, can be injured, and that is why some of us, like Mr. Trump from the darkness, will present an image of everything is fine, sure, but every once in a while, some kind of weird thing like red injuries on the little fingies happen, and you're like, that in a number of ways does not look good. And then front, what sores? AI, nothing happened. Come on, you gotta at least laugh. I mean, that is hilarious. No matter how you feel, that is humorous. So, I don't know, it's like a game of a bunch of illusions, you know, a bunch of smoke and layers, definitely to present an illusion. So, couple of things. I also saw today, I guess I should link it. I shared it everywhere that I have an account, but I didn't even pull out a piece of paper for today, did I? So, yeah, there was a good angel message today from a lady named Cindy. And she's a reader, she's a medium, and she kind of elaborates and gives some detail to what the angel message was, but it was an extra long one, which she says right off the bat. She's very organized. She has her notes on index cards, and so she did say it was a 5 index card message, and they're usually like 2 cards, I think, is usually it. And it was a lot of information about karma for people who are sort of misunderstanding what it is. She explains it better, and fear, and why it's going to be fearful, and why it needs to happen, and why it is happening. And she says, again, something that I say all the time about what we did sign up for. Like, basically the message was, it's gonna get hairy. Like, a bunch of stuff is gonna be happening on the underside of the America. Probably everywhere else in the world, but I always try and stick to the U.S. because that's where I am, and that's where I can speak about with any kind of authority. So I'm going to link the video that she put up about that. And then also, I linked this video a couple of videos ago, but it was Kelina Malnar talking about the February energies, and that they would be roller coaster, which I felt like was not unlike every rest of the time ever. But in light of like just what I was talking about, that's uproarious for our emotions and our community. So I'm gonna link Cindy's video today, and that can kind of inform us a little bit more. And I feel like if you're not feeling all that comfortable, and you're just feeling unsettled and maybe a little fearful, this video of Cindy's will help with that some. And Kelina's, you'll have to go back 2 videos of mine to find it, or you can go to her site and look for, she has a YouTube channel, and just look for her February energies, and it says roller coaster right on it, so it won't be hard to find if you're interested. I'm just offering. I actually am not worried about any of it. I'm not scared of like what's gonna come, because I do know that it's what I signed up for, and it's exciting, and sometimes it's really funny, like scary and bad sounding, and it can make you feel uproarious inside, but not laughing. I mean, uproar is not always fun and haha. Sometimes it's like, there's a loose lion in the circus, run, that kind of thing. So and yet I find that amusing. Oh gosh, now I'm gonna choke. Anyway, before I finish, I did pull just for myself some cards, and I got some kind of interesting things from just my Lightseers tarot deck. So it's actually a tarot deck, not oracle cards. And it was not like the most pleasant looking thing at first, but here's what I got. First, 10 of Swords, which on traditional tarot is a person pinned to the ground by swords, like everything got you. But in this one, you can see that they're up and around the head, sort of lingering in that area of this person. And that just made me think of like heavy thoughts that, like, if I look at it from a personal vantage point, it's like I don't really have bad things going on. There's some things that I've had to worry about, but they are ticking off the list of stuff that, you know, I just need to get some things taken care of, and they're off my list. Like, the problems are not really that big of a deal. Like, they're only as big of a problem, they're only as big and powerful as I make them. So that was actually, when I first saw this, I was like, but then I felt more encouraged. And so after that came pretty much what I was saying. Like, okay, like, yeah, you can see she's in her nest and she's just resting calmly, like, just kind of not getting upset about things is how I'd interpret this position and everything. But you can see that there are 3 long tendrils with sort of pointy ends. They could have come in and stabbed her, but she's just calm and relaxed and acting as if nothing is wrong. So much so that she's apparently napping. And they're like, nothing to see here, nothing to stab here, because they'd be looking for some fear and anxiety to stab, and they're not finding it. So they just kind of came up and were searching and didn't find, and are just going back into the weave. That is what I feel like is happening with these 3 things. Like, once you realize all the problems don't really have to touch her, she can be all in the middle of them and be fine. That could be any of us. And then I got this card, and I get this so much. And this is like out of context for how I usually get this card, but I feel like it was just saying, okay, so now you are like, you're on the road, you know what you need to do as far as your problems are concerned, and you're just like going on as if, you know, and you're waiting for the end of it. When the end of it comes, and the end of it being like the problem times, the worrisome times, and I have to get this done before I can do that times, are coming to an end. So it's the end of the day, sort of got all of that mind work stuff, and it was good to, at the end of the day, go relax and surf and get it, you know, physical action helps you relieve stress also. So that all happened. The mind is settled, just kind of like, okay, I'm cool to wait for the next thing to come, and it's on its way. That's this. Then I got, and then everything's gonna be all good. Which I think, you know, getting rid of all the swords is good. And when the wands reach their destinations, that's what happens here. It's like satisfaction, happiness, togetherness. It's all good. But, you know, don't get complacent. You know, you can't just like let things go and think like, okay, all my troubles are over because that one bit. That is not how it works. I mean, so it's always something, you know, like you have to worry, or not worry, but you have to stay on top of yourself not to get obsessive about stuff, so you don't end up here again and, you know, have to work backwards and go through this period again. Like, we've done that, right? But when things are going good, you can't just have that. Nope. To keep life interesting, temptation has to come along and try and mess you up. But you don't have to give in to the temptation. And I just want to say, I was doing a video the other day and I was talking about how I find a lot of people that are pretty prominent in these cards. And I had said that I found David Dole from the Rational National YouTube channel, and he does not have this hair, like I said, but the face that the person put on this illustration resembles him so much. I actually sent him a tweet about it, and he hearted the tweet, like, or he liked it, like, he's like, oh my god, yeah. I mean, it really does look like him. It's just his face. Everything else about it, nothing to do with him. But yeah. And so staying in the good mindset and being productive and not giving into temptation and just like living your life normal, you know, like there seems to be some sort of artisans here displaying their wares, and they seem to have an interested party looking on, and that's like good regular life proceeding. And this one, I'm not reading it the way that, well, it's meant to be read. Like, I'm not reading it as Knight of Pentacles in particular, except, you know what I thought when I saw this, or not that what I thought, what came into my head was, he's got a hole in his pocket, and he doesn't care. So, the Pentacles are like all manner of good things that this Johnny Appleseed type is just sort of distributing. And it's interesting that, like, the horse is completely, it looks like the horse is not really bearing any weight or carrying a burden at all. And dude's got, like, his shield with, well, that's a certain type of, it's a pentagram. I don't know why I'm caught on that pentagram on his shield, but I don't know. Maybe when I get to the info box section, more will come out. I didn't take any notes. That could be a problem. Maybe I should do that. But the hole in his pocket, I feel like is just spreading goodwill wherever he goes. And the impression I got from the horse having nothing on him and the guy walking is like, the man's not hurt and the horse ain't carrying anything. I don't know why it made me think of covered wagons. Like, we may have thought, and this is something else I just learned recently, although now that I think back, I may have seen it on the Little House on the Prairie show when I was a little kid, but that was a long time ago. But it reminded me of pioneers, settlers in America, when they'd come with their covered wagons and they would have all of their belongings on the wagons, and the people were like walking. they weren't riding in the wagons. It was a towing vehicle more than anything else. Obviously, if the weather turned bad, they could go like inside or underneath it, like if it was raining or something, for some protection. But generally, it was a moving van and not like a party van. So I don't, what the hell does that have to do with this? They are on a prairie though, so it's not so funny. I don't know, maybe he's the, like, what do you call it, running point, you know, scouting the area. It's just funny that he's not on the horse. And the horse is just more like his buddy taking a walk with him or something. All I know is, look, the dude's even barefoot. Like, dude, where are your shoes? What kind of knight are you? It's like he's the knight of, like, love and fun and passion. Like, no weapon. He's got a shield to protect himself from the anti-knights of no fun, I guess. This is all about light and happy. So yeah, spreading the joy with that hole in his pocket, because all of these things, you know, we're going to go through our processes, and eventually we're going to get to here, and we're going to be reminded that, like, don't just, like, throw caution to the wind. Like, things are good, but it's almost like you have more at stake when things are good. So you can't be given in to temptation and maybe frivolous behavior that you would have before you had, I don't know, a family or things to be responsible to and for. I don't know, it's just kind of like an all about life reading, you know, with those last bits of cards. And that was like all about my day, which I'm not going to go into because boring, but more problems of mine ticked off the list. So I am happy with this reading. I'm going to stop now. Thank you and good night. I just don't want it to take too long. Bye-bye.